Welcome back to Ride JBI. I'm JB. Today we are finishing a JBI Spec shock revalve on this 2024 Kawasaki KX450. What's special about this shock revalve is that this shock is getting our 18mm shock shaft assembly upgrade. As you can see here, we have the shock partially assembled already because it's getting ready to be put on our Lava 7 bleed machine. But before we do that, I wanted to show you some of the features of the shock. What stands out the most is you can see that the shock shaft has a dioxide black coating on it compared to the stock chrome one. But more importantly than that, this is a 16mm shock shaft and this is an 18mm shock shaft. Commonly, people think that we do this in order to improve the strength of the shock, and there is definitely some merit to that. But the bigger reason we do this is because the bigger shock shaft is going to push more oil through our compression adjuster up here at the top. So since the shock has the same amount of travel, meaning how much it can compress from full extension to full travel, the larger shock shaft is going to push more volume of oil through our compression adjuster. So that's going to do two things. It's going to make our compression adjuster more effective in terms of the amount of damping resistance it creates. It's also going to make the clickers more effective as well. Again, because for the same amount of travel, we're pushing more oil through the adjuster, and that's because the shock shaft is actually bigger. So let's just say you had a stock shock and that's the only modification you did. What you can expect is the shock to be a little bit firmer feeling just overall through the entire range of travel. Now here at Ride JBI, obviously the shock isn't stock. We've revalved the internals as well to go along with this 18mm shock shaft. And of course we have our JBI titanium compression piston assembly and the compression adjuster, because this was revalved as well to work in unison with this 18mm shock shaft also. Of course, we did our JBI bladder cap. Let's see if we can get this not to move. Nope, fuck it. Of course, we got our JBI bladder cap on right here. That replaces the stock bladder cap, which utilizes a rubber plug in order to fill and degas the shock of nitrogen. While these rubber plugs work and are self-sealing, they're not always 100% reliable. With Ride JBI, we prefer bladder caps that have a Schrader valve on them. They're much easier to fill with gas, easier to check the nitrogen gas charge that is in there, and they tend to be much more reliable as well in terms of encapsulating the gas. So the Schrader valve is exactly like you would see on the tube of your motorcycle where you go to fill it with air for your tires. So same style of valve. So this shock here is definitely going to be our top of the line shock that we offer for the Kawasaki KX450. That's just not going to work, is it? Mainly we're offering a revalve with our revalve on the main piston and compression adjuster as well with our bladder caps and JBI bumper. So think of the shock shaft as the top of the line feature, like the last piece you would do to it. These are going to be most applicable for motocross riders, supercross, arena cross, freestyle, and then I would say very fast off-road racers, people doing Baja, open desert type speeds. It wouldn't really be applicable or an advantage for more of that slower single track type off-road riding, and then much even slower than that, more technical single track and hard enduro type riding. So thank you guys for checking this stuff out. All of the products that we talked about here, you can find at ridejbi.com, and also the services that go along with it as well, meaning the JBI suspension shock revalve that we did, and also that in the form of a DIY kit as well, meaning our revalve packaged up into a kit that you can install yourself or have somebody locally install it to you. So that way you get JBI suspension technology in your hands locally to you, but with the same custom settings you would get as if you sent us your suspension. All JBI suspension services and parts can be found at ridejbi.com.